on the street, in the water, or at the track. If you drive it, we can fuel it.
Well, for 49 years, the sound of the elephant motor, the Chrysler Hemi, has echoed its way on the stands here and Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis. And one more time here in 2017, we fire him up again in his first round elimination in the Mopar Hemi Challenge. This is the way it goes, man. Dan Rust and Steve Kent coming up to the starting line. We have Steve Kent in a clutch car and Dan Rust running the automatic machine.
Well, the clutch car should have an advantage in high gear because of the converters. Converters have some flippers, no doubt. And of course, these 4-speeds today are all clutchless. It's not like the old days where we had to push the clutch down and shift the thing. So if they get them to leave, that's the big trick with the clutch cars.
Dan Rust is from Maple Grove, Minnesota. He ran the Brainerd, Minnesota event a few weeks ago trying to get this car lined out. He qualified at 9:09. Steve Kent qualified at 8:56. Kent on paper should eat him up. Get the car out of the hole and through low gear. You're going to believe me, Kent. He stuck the tire and man, Steve Kent is starting to drive away from Dan Rust.
Wow, he did it.
8:53, 355 for Kent, 9:13.9 for Rust, and I mean, Dan Rust just ran into a buzzsaw out there.
Well, yeah, it got 104 60-footer. That car really left. It left good.
Carried the front end out. Beautiful launch on both sides. Now, Doug Fazzalore was supposed to be racing Steve Camella. We have no Doug Fazzalore, so Steve Camella will have a solo here in round one. So let's listen to Steve Camella on a solo pass. Let that 426 cubic inch Pachyderm Hemi V8 eat its way down the right-hand side of the racetrack. And Camella up near the center line there as he finally pulls into high gear. Goes 844 with an 8157. Oh, boy. Gus Mantis' car is spectacular in its simplicity. It is a B5 Blue 68 Barracuda from Toronto, Canada, and it is a wheel-standing son of a gun. Kyle Kors, Superstock A Hemi 1968 Barracuda, 21 years old. So a 21-year-old kid, and unfortunately, Kyle Kors is not going to be able to make the run. You have famously been in that situation, minus the wheelie bars.
Oh, yeah.
To Russ Campbell, the long-running Missouri Mule machine on the race helmet side of the strip.
I was talking to Steve last night. This was supposedly the first 4-speed 68 car built.
Oh, this is a real one. This is not a recreation
car. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a real car. And he said this was the first 4-speed car to come off the line. And then they went over and had the motors put in hers.
Yeah.
It was the first 4-speed car. I said, well, you didn't buy it new. You're way too young. You wasn't even born yet. He said, no, he just drives it. I said, well, that's a good position to be in.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a nice young man. I met him last night.
Would he take $700 for it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Hey, we paid $3,600 for those cars back then.
$3,600.
38, somewhere along in there.
The car is easily, this one especially, if it's the first 4-speed car, likely worth at least 10 times that.
Yeah.
Or I should say 100 times that.
Because our 65 cars were 36. They might have been in the 4,000 range.
And off we go as Russ Campbell goes 031 red. Campbell was the better qualified car by a bunch. Yantis has his share of problems and will coast to the finish line. Oh, man. Russ Campbell, 935.8, 139 as Yantis goes 1174.2 at just 76.5 miles an hour, and that's a heartbreaker for Russ Campbell. Stephen Hebert coming up from Westlake, Louisiana. The symbol on the door, the car formerly known as Fish. Oh, man. We have a massive amount of fluid pouring out of the bottom of that race car, and I'm guessing it is transmission fluid because it is that white cloud of smoke that emerged from the right side of the car. I mean, that is a full-on Valdez situation out there as Hebert stops at 1,319 and a half feet. Both cars at pre-stage right now. Hess versus Daniels. Yardley, Pennsylvania, Bunker Hill, West Virginia. Daniels is second in. Oh, red light start for Bucky by 24 thousandths of a second, and Jimmy Daniels a 29 reaction time, a wheel standing launch, and Daniels goes 842, 356 miles an hour, picking it up about 800ths of a second. Bucky goes 853 and 155.
All the cars that are winning are pretty close, EQ-wise. Yeah,
it's been a good clump of cars in there, absolutely. That 840, mid to low 840 seems to be the happy place. The John Holt Race Cars built 68 Dart, as is a pair of darts out here. And Gary Wolkowitz White House Station, New Jersey, the Ray Barton 426 powered 1968 Dart with a flame job on it. Pancake has been running these cars for a very long time. He has held national records in them many times. Won the Dutch Classic Shootout about 11 years ago. He has been to the winner's circle in one of these things, and he wants to do it here at the big one. And he has a shot to move on as Barry Lopez misses the green by 007, and Pancake was 001 off the starting line. Ready to go, Pancake 853.7, 156. Wolkowitz goes 837.4 to 157. Oh,
what a run to throw away. Gee, that's incredible.
Herb, when you got going, there was no such thing as a reaction time, or was there?
No, we didn't have a reaction.
Yeah.
When you pull second gear, you looked over, if you was in front, you had a good reaction, you left for it.
So a bittersweet moment here for Wendell Howes. He has a competition single. He was supposed to race his son Mark. Yesterday at Mark's run, the engine failed, breaking the top of the block, a chunk of the top of the block with the deck basically right up to the cylinder head, and the top of one of the cylinder barrels broke off about the size of the palm of your hand. So his son is sidelined, but Dad gets to advance on the top single. That was kind of a dream weekend here a couple of years ago as he went rounds in the Hemi Challenge. And Wendell goes 8.504 at 140, obviously lifting early.
All the good cars are within about a tenth of a second in winter trucks, so that's really going to be good.
Well, Herb McCandless, whether you like it or not, you're coming back for round two. We're going to be up here, and I expect to see you in a little while. So it is now time for round two at the Mopar Hemi Challenge. We're going to start out with a great pair of Jim Pancake and Steve Kent. Kent from down in Bayou Country, down there in Louisiana, the 1968 Barracuda. For Kent, 426 Chrysler Hemi, of course, and a manual transmission. The biggest difference between the two cars, Pancake's car is an automatic.
All these cars are pretty close, so they should be some really good racing with them. As far as ETs, they're pretty close.
Yes, we saw the winning cars, even the ones that were on solos, all ran within kind of the same neighborhood. So the square-bodied 68 Dart of Jim Pancake gets ready to take on Steve Kent. Kent's going to be coming out the clutch pedal. Here we go. Pancake inching the car ahead. Jim has been involved in this Hemi stuff a very long time. Won several of these shootouts over the years. Again, tickling the ball with Steve Kent. He's got his stick shift car staged. Red light start for Pancake, 41.
11, pretty decent light.
And Steve Kent goes 858 with a 456.39. Pancake 857.0, 159.85. But Pancake got a little antsy up there and missed the tree by 41 thousandths.
I'd like to see him go to a pro tree like we used to run. Take a lot of the red light stuff out of it. I think it'd make it better racing.
I like that idea. We'll put that in the suggestion box.
Good idea.
Jimmy Daniels and Gus Mantis coming up. Daniels, the 1968 Dart. Mantis, the gorgeous blue 68 Barracuda. Mantis had a solo last time, a competition single. The thing came up and hit the wheelie bar, unloaded the rear tires. Let's find out or watch, see if they made any chassis adjustments. If he does that again, we're willing to bet you dollars to donuts that Jimmy Daniels is going to eat him alive.
They'll take some front spring out of those cars. That'll stop some of that wheel damage.
Daniels the second to stage. The 21-year-old kid comes off the start line. Mantis, a monstrous wheel stand and a double 05 light. But Gus Mantis is looking at the back end of the Dart that's driving away from him. 844.0, 156 for Daniels. Mantis landed that thing after a very long extended flight, and he lifted and coasted to a 1046. Steve Camella was supposed to be racing Stephen Hebert. Hebert unfortunately blew up a transmission out there and greased the racetrack down last time. They did not have time to fix it. So Camella will have a solo with his stick shifted Island Hemi. They actually pulled on second gear here when he grabbed the snatch second. 128 in the 8th mile, and Camella goes 848, only 142. Camella's run was one of the best looking runs we've seen early on the entire weekend. He obviously shut the car off early, going only 142 miles an hour. On the throttle, that's going to be a low rate 40 pass there. 20-year-old Steve Yantis and Wendell Howes. Howes carrying the Howes name on after, unfortunately, his son's car had an engine failure and qualified. He's going to try to take out Steve Yantis. New Brunswick, Canada for Wendell Howes. Charleston, South Carolina for Steve Yantis. Wendell's car gets out of the groove move to the right. That may be just enough for Yantis. Wendell had a slight starting line advantage. It looks like Wendell may have enough. He does. 863.6, 156. Wendell Howes is advancing to the third round. So the team from Eastern Canada, not even thinking about going home yet. Steve Yantis, 876, 155. Carter didn't seem to be there when he needed it. Steve Camella comes through the water box, and Hemi Jimmy Daniels pulls up in that very familiar 1968 Dart with the name Ray Barton scrawled down the side.
You know, the fact that he won last year gives him a lot of confidence coming into this year, because he was a rookie last year, I mean, for real.
Now, the one thing, the one kind of cool X factor here, this is the first time Camella's actually had a stage next to somebody. Remember, the first two runs he had down the racetrack, there was no opponent in the other lane.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I've been there.
And I will add to the fact that the last run Camella made, he shut the car off early after having the strongest early numbers of the session. Not that these guys wouldn't know that anyway, but we'll find out if Hemi Jimmy and the rest of the crew has their car loaded up, because it appears Steve Camella has his loaded for Bayer. The semifinal round of the Mopar Hemi Challenge, one of the most prestigious shootout races in the entire Chrysler drag racing world, and two of the best cars in the entire Chrysler drag racing world lined up side by side, ready to let fly. Hemi Jimmy bought himself 300s, and that is a whole lot of this category. It is going to be bigger than that by the time they get to the finish line. 842 beats an 840, a whole shot win.
That's impressive for the boy. Gives him confidence.
So, we will find out if young Hemi Jimmy Daniels will have a chance to double up against either Steve Kent or Wendell Howes. Howes, the racer from New Brunswick, Canada, and Steve Kent from, well, the great state of Louisiana. 68 Barracudas a pair. They're all in, and they are all gone. Wendell Howes bought himself a 10th off the starting line. You can see how big the advantage was before the two cars moved. And Wendell Howes is going to the final round. 842, 2 at 156 miles an hour.
They ran the same ETs. Jimmy and him both of them ran 842.
I love it. I love it. I love it. The Howes family was dealt a bad hand earlier on when Mark Howes' car suffered that engine failure early on. It felt horrible for those guys, but boy, they are doing a good job to make up for it as Wendell's heading to the final round, and as you mentioned, identical elapsed times.
Same thing. One of the premier attractions here at the U.S. Nationals for the past, 20, 30, 80 years, the Mopar Hemi Challenge. It comes down to Wendell Howes and Hemi Jimmy Daniels driving that Ray Barton Dart over here. Hurt McCandless, a Dart legend, joins me up here in town. I know who you're pulling for because you're a Dart guy.
Well, I'm a Dart guy. I had a 68 Dart, and both these guys are great people. I went over and talked to both of them for about 15 minutes today each, and they're just super people. That young boy, Jimmy there, Hemi Jimmy they call him now, he's working on the car, and that's really impressive.
In qualifying, they were less than 100th of a second apart. In the semifinals, they were literally within a thousandth or two.
Yeah, 2,000s apart.
Get off the starting line first, and get off the starting line green, and let's find out who is going to win the 2017 Mopar Hemi Challenge, part of class eliminations in Superstock, and nobody's in any particular hurry to stage right now. Barracuda on the left side, Dart on the right side, Jimmy trying to go back-to-back, Wendell trying to steal it all here in the final, and Top Fuel cars pull in right behind them. They're in. They're green. Oh, and wheel spin. Bad. Wendell Howes blows the tires off. And Jimmy Daniels will win his second Hemi Challenge, 8.404, 155 miles an hour. The weather out there is not just good for funny cars, it's also good for Hemi cars.
It's really impressive to see a young kid like that. He won it last year, and then he won it again this year.